Welcome to the first video of this series, and we're going to start taking a look at the Benoni actually. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and now third g3. And black could play bishop b4 here as well, but actually I think it makes sense to play Benoni because it is known that this setup from white with playing with g3 and playing the fianchetto is not really the most dangerous weapon against the Benoni. So I believe that's the right way here to play for black. So the Benoni is reached after d5, but white has one more other move, which is knight f3, but really not such a great move, and it doesn't need to be feared at all. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and here black has many options. He can play also bishop b4 check here, but I like playing in the center here with d5 and claiming a space advantage. Bishop g2, and now e5 is even possible. And white has many options to play the knight somewhere, so we'll take a look at all of them one after the other. So let's start with the rarest ones and then get to the most popular ones. Knight b5, a6, the knight is attacked again and again, and now coming to d5, but here black is simply finishing his development, and I believe he doesn't have any problems. After e takes d4, you can take on d5 and follow up with knight takes d4, and obviously black is completely fine here. So, and I don't want to spend too much time on these absolute sidelines, so let's have a look at the next move, which is knight to c2. Now d4, and it's kind of funny actually, now it's kind of a Benoni reversed. So in one way or the other, we always see Benoni structures after third g3. Here, white usually castles. He can also play f4 and knight c6. And now bishop takes c6, b takes c6, f takes e5. Looks first that black blundered the pawn, but not really, because with this check, he's regaining the pawn and actually losing another one here on d4, but this endgame is giving black great compensation for the pawn. He's having the bishop pair, and also there are a lot of weaknesses in the white position. By the way, this pawn on c6 is indirectly protected, so that's fine for black. And if white castles, then knight c6, and now bishop g5, it's a possible move, bishop e6, pawn is hanging, so queen d3, bishop e7, and black is just finishing his development, and I believe he's already better here due to his space advantage. So that's fine for black. Alright, back to this position. Knight b3 is another move. Now d4 once again, claiming the space advantage. Castle, knight c6. Again, white can play bishop g5, but another move which is kind of an interesting attempt here by white is to play f4, e4, and now f5. And now it looks like white is going to put on some pressure on the black center by playing bishop g5, and black has to react immediately by playing g6. Still bishop g5, bishop e7, and white is winning his pawn here on e4, but black is having great compensation on the black squares. I mean, everything is weakened in the white position. Knight 1 to d2, bishop e3 check, king h1 castle, and this bishop is clearly compensating a pawn. Alright, so instead of f4, white can play bishop g5, as I've mentioned already. Now bishop g4 seems to be an interesting move. Ideas are often that this bishop is quite unpleasant here. For example, white can't really develop because of d3, so that's annoying. So he plays knight c1 to avoid this d3 move, but now simply finish developing, and the black position is completely fine. Okay, so now we have taken a look at a lot of knight moves. There's one more left in this position, which is knight to f3, which is the main move. But once again d4, and this pawn is indirectly protected. So white can't take it and castles. Now this pawn is hanging, so of course we defend it, knight c6. And white should do something here immediately. If he just plays quietly and doesn't do really anything, black is finishing his development, is enjoying a nice space advantage. So white needs to play with e3 here. Bishop e7, e takes d4, e takes d4, bishop f4. And now, important detail here, to play bishop e6 first. So don't castle yet, bishop e6 first, so you can reply after knight e5 with rook c8 and simply protecting the square on c6. And now knight d2, castle, and here black can even win a pawn on c4, but position remains more or less equal here, so that's all right. Okay, but now let's get into the real Benoni after d5. E takes d5, c takes d5, d6, knight c3, and really white doesn't have any options to deviate from the normal moves. g6, bishop g2, now the usual move, bishop g7, and here also knight f3. Pretty much everybody will play this. It's just the natural moves, and if white wants to deviate, really it's not that great for white. Castle, knight g2, rook e8, castle, and this knight is just not very well placed on e2. Doesn't have any perspective, and usually the knight always likes to go to c4, but from e2 it's obviously a long way to come to c4, so this knight is just misplaced. a6, a4, knight bd7, queen c2, and now rook b8, and white is trying to prevent b5, but black simply plays it anyway and opens up the b file here, and he's better definitely here. So clearly knight f3, castle, castle, and now rook e8. And in this position there's one main move, which is knight to d2, but this move will be discussed by me in the next video. So now I would like to take a look at all the other moves white can play. And those are bishop f4, which is my main move now, a4, h3, and rook e1. So one after the other, we're gonna have a look at them. After a4, black can play knight e4 and exploit immediately the fact that white has weakened the square on b4. Because after knight takes e4, rook takes e4, knight d2, the rook can come to b4 and put on some pressure on the white queen side. So, rook a2, and we're following now a game between Krishuk and Karana from 2014. Karana played a5, b3, b5, a takes b5, knight d7, knight e4, queen e7, queen c2, rook takes b5, and you can see now the rook is very well placed on b5 because black can double the rooks on the b file, put on some pressure on this pawn, and the position is roughly equal. So another move instead of a4 is h3, but once again knight e4 is a possible move. And it's usually the case that in these Benoni structures black likes to exchange some minor pieces because he's the one with the space disadvantage. So black is having less space, obviously. And usually it's a good rule of thumb. If you have less space, it helps if you have less pieces, because then for the remaining pieces there's more space to maneuver. So that's exactly the case here. White black is exchanging some pieces. Knight takes e4, rook takes e4. Now knight d2, rook e8. This time don't go to b4. a4, knight d7, knight e4, knight f6, and really there's no problem here for black. Yeah, in the following moves you can see the standard moves again, a6, rook b8, and even though white has played a5, black is still playing b5, of course, because he is gaining the counterplay on the b file. So that's about equal. Okay, and another move in this position, the last one before we check the main line, bishop f4, rook e1 now. a6, a4, knight bd7, and now e4. This was obviously the idea from white when he played rook e1. But now you can play the knight to e5 here, and this also again looks fine for black. So now knight d3 is threatening, bishop f1, and now knight f6. And after a5, rook b8, king g2, there's actually an interesting idea here to play with g5. It's always a little bit double-edged because you're also weakening your own king, but on the other hand you're supporting this knight on e5 so it can be pushed away from white by playing f4. If he does now, he would also weaken his king considerably. Okay. So now let's have a look at the move which has become more popular recently as an alternative to knight d2, which is bishop f4, a natural move to develop the bishop. And here I propose, or I suggest, the move knight e4. Again. Okay, the black knight should be taken here on e4. If rook c1, then simply knight takes c3, b takes c3, b5, and you can already see that's absolutely fine here. Game Sargsyan against Van Vliet. That's fine for black. So this knight should be taken, and now once again knight d2, and here, interestingly, black can sacrifice the exchange on f4, and he's going to have enough compensation for it. Of course, this pawn is hanging, so we take it. Rook b1 and bishop g7. So let's take a moment and take a look at the position. What's going on? So black gained one pawn for the exchange, but for one, white's king is slightly weakened, and we're having this nice queenside majority here. So if these pawns are rolling down the board, then obviously black is going to be clearly superior. So white has to do something immediately to maybe stop these pawns. And here's different options, clearly. In one of my own games, my opponent played e4. And I should have answered here with knight d7. Niclas Huschenbeth from 2011. And now, if queen f3, then b5 is possible, exploring the fact that after rook takes b5, bishop a6 would win the exchange. And after knight c4, you can continue with knight b6, and you don't have to be afraid that white is taking on b6. Obviously, this would open the a file for your favor. And after knight e3, rook b8, rook e1, bishop d7. Position is completely unclear, of course, but black is having his chances definitely here. All right. What else can white do? Can also play rook e1. Oh, excuse me. First rook e1, then we'll take a look at knight c4. Now knight e7. Again, if now knight c4 can be answered by knight b6. So queen b3, knight f6, knight c4, and now rook b8. Of course, white doesn't want to allow b5, so a4, knight h5, e3, bishop g4, and once again, hugely complicated position, but black is having his chances, and I would definitely prefer to be black here. I think it's also easier to play. So knight c4, the last move we will take a look at, knight a6, e4, rook b8, and we're following a game here, Wang against Bologan from 2012, and white played queen a4. And now I think it would have been a good option to further weaken the white pawns here, or to further weaken the black squares from white by playing bishop h6, and now you can place the bishop on f4, quite unpleasant, and also there are ideas against the white king sometimes. It's not mate immediately because white is still having this defending bishop, but there are ideas definitely. After rook b3, knight c7, we once again have an interesting position on the board, and I would just recommend try it out, and I believe you have very good chances here to play with black. Alright, so that was the first video of our series. Now we've taken a look at the Benoni, and it was the question whether black is playing the Benoni reversed style if white plays knight f3, or if you really have a traditional Benoni structure like we have seen him now. And I don't see any problems here really. We have always seen black in most cases is gaining counterplay on the b file and try to exchange some minor pieces if possible. Knight e4 was a common theme in this particular video, and then we have seen this exchange sacrifice, which gives black excellent chances, I believe. So in the next video I'm going to take a look at the main variation, 10th knight e2. See you then.
Hi, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos. First of all, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to receive more free chess videos from us, you can just click the subscribe button below. I would also highly recommend signing up for my free mail course, the 10 Grandmaster Secrets to Dominate Chess. During this exclusive course from onlinechesslessons.net, I'll share with you my own Grandmaster shortcuts to effective attacking, defending and growth hacks to improving your chess without complicated books or memorization. So sign up by clicking the sidebar on the right, and I know you won't be disappointed. Once more, this is Damian for onlinechesslessons.net, and I'll see you in my videos. Thank you.